Right now on Morning News Now, a deadly Seattle shooting. At least 3 people were killed and several others injured in an alleged shootout between gunmen at a popular food festival. The gunfire creating chaos, sending the crowd at the city's iconic Space Needle running and screaming. Police raced to the scene, confronting one of the shooters.
Officers responded and addressed one of the shooters. That person gave up and was taken into custody. There was another person that we believe that was also involved that fled the scene.
The latest ahead as Seattle police ask for the public's help finding the second gunman. Breathing room, the United States and Iran pause their attacks for a second straight day as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, dismisses reporting that U.S. weapons stockpiles are depleted after months of fighting. Meanwhile, concerns are being raised over a potential U.S. nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia. An update ahead from Washington. Be careful with your breakfast. The FDA announcing the recall of nearly 20 million eggs due to potential salmonella contamination. Dozens of people have been hospitalized. We'll tell you what brands are impacted and what you should be on the lookout for. And end of an era, the days of the manual stick shift may soon be in our rearview mirror. We'll have a look at why stepping on the clutch and sliding the car into gear may one day become extinct. I'll admit it, I don't know how.
You've never done it?
I'd love to learn.
It is. You better hurry.
I know, exactly.
The clock is ticking. Not easy, but it is fun. All right. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Monday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this hour out west, where first responders say one suspect is in custody following a deadly mass shooting in downtown Seattle last night. At least 3 people were killed in the shooting, while at least 4 others were reported injured.
Officials said they believe the victims were caught in a shootout between 2 gunmen at a food festival near the city's iconic Space Needle. And this morning, officials say one suspect is in custody, with potentially another shooter still on the run. Reporter Sebastian Robertson from our NBC affiliate in Seattle, King 5, has the latest details.
The Seattle Police Department confirming that 3 people have died. A total of 7 people were shot after a shooting at an event in Seattle called the Bite of Seattle. We are just beside the Space Needle, north of the Mopop Museum here. The event brings hundreds of thousands of people to the city over the course of the weekend. We heard from multiple witnesses that just after 6 p.m., they heard several gunshots, as many as 6 heard. That led to just mass panic in the crowd, people trying to go for any available exit. Meanwhile, Seattle police, who were already on scene, dozens of officers responded. We're told that several of those officers immediately confronted the shooter, were able to get that person to put down the weapon. That suspect was arrested and taken into custody. Police believe there may be suspects still out there, not ruling out the possibility there may be more than one. Now, hundreds of thousands of people attend this event on average per day, and despite there being many witnesses, police say that a problem is that those witnesses are not cooperating with law enforcement. They're asking the public to come forward. They believe that somebody knows who these alleged shooters or shooters may be. Meanwhile, all resources are descending on Seattle. The FBI and ATF are assisting with this investigation, with the assistant chief, the governor, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, and the mayor of Seattle, who are calling this a true tragedy. Again, 3 people killed in this mass shooting in Seattle. Back to you.
All right, Sebastian Robertson, thank you very much. Well, back in Washington, and under increasing scrutiny as it carries out this war with Iran over its nuclear pursuits, the Trump administration is defending its decision to make a nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia amid concerns it could spark a regional arms race. Meet the press moderator Kristen Welker discussed the issue with U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz. Here's Kristen with more.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke with U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, about the Trump administration's potential deal to allow Saudi Arabia to create their own civilian nuclear program. The U.S. is fighting a war with Iran over its nuclear program. Why reward Saudi Arabia with a nuclear program now?
Huge difference. I mean, massive difference that it's important for people to understand. You have the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world. in Iran. You have them refusing to allow the inspections. Contrast that, by the way, there's a deal in place with the UAE.
But could you
they allow the
Could you set off an arms race, a nuclear arms race in the
No,
region?
what will set off a nuclear arms race, Kirsten, is if Iran tests a nuclear weapon. Saudi has made it clear they will get a nuclear weapon. This is civilian nuclear power, which is perfectly acceptable. The UAE has a plant. In fact, even Iran has a Russian-provided plant. The difference is Iran is enriching to weapons level that it doesn't need to do. Iran is burying it, which no other country in the world does, hundreds of feet underground, under hardened military infrastructure. Iran is trying to shield it with a conventional drone and missile shield. And Iran has stated if and when they get a nuclear weapon, they will not only use it on Israel, that they will threaten the rest of the world to export their revolution. That is night and day different than an American company selling a civilian nuclear plant to an ally.
Just to put a button on this, bottom line, the deal will not be fully implemented until Saudi Arabia agrees to sign on to the Abraham Accords.
That's the president's position.
You can see my full interview with Ambassador Waltz at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Kristen, thank you.
Now, in the Middle East, there is an uneasy calm in the war between Iran and the United States. Following a 2-week bombing campaign, the U.S. stopped its strikes on Iran Friday night.
In return, Iran also halted its attacks on U.S. bases in the region. The pause comes amid mounting uncertainty over the state of U.S. weapons stockpiles and the state of peace talks between both countries.
NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us with the latest on this. Alice, good morning. A lot of mixed messaging as to why the U.S. halted the strikes on Iran. Is it clear? Is this because of America's weapons supply, or is it just about maybe giving talks a chance?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. The main voice we heard from the administration about this over the weekend was UN Ambassador Mike Waltz, who told NBC's Meet the Press that President Trump is allowing space for diplomacy. But the pause does come amid growing concerns about depleted American munitions. 2 senior U.S. officials told NBC News that American commanders are letting some Iranian attacks through U.S. defenses to preserve some of the diminishing supply. The Pentagon declined to comment. Ambassador Mike Waltz forcefully rejected that reporting, even as he did reference the Pentagon's massive new budget requests. Here's more of what he underscored.
The U.S. military, and I've verified this every which way, has everything that it needs to conduct this campaign as effectively as it needs to be. What the president is doing right now, as we've seen all along, is giving some talks some space. Talks are ongoing.
Notable, too, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due to arrive in Washington today for the funeral services for his longtime ally, the late Senator Lindsey Graham. And then tomorrow, Netanyahu is set to meet with President Trump in their first face-to-face talks since the war with Iran began in February.
Alice, what are we hearing from the Iranians about the current state of affairs? Are they willing to restart talks with the U.S.?
Huge question, right? For the first time in weeks, Iran yesterday reported progress in talks with Oman to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but didn't offer any specifics. And Iran did say that it would pause its attacks for as long as the U.S. pauses its bombing. But Iran said today it was still in control of the Strait of Hormuz and not seeking to restart peace talks, at least directly with the United States at this point.
Alice, despite this pause in fighting, the U.S. says it is still maintaining that naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. And CENTCOM did carry out an operation involving a tanker over the weekend. What are we learning about that?
Yeah, U.S. Central Command released footage of American troops boarding and inspecting a ship in the Persian Gulf and disabling a vessel accused of violating that U.S. military blockade. And then we know this is also expanding to other fronts. On Saturday, Houthi rebels who are backed by Iran attacked Saudi oil installations along the Red Sea coast. Over the weekend, Iran threatened Britain, warning against letting U.S. bombers operate from British bases. The U.K. said it's ready to defend itself. And Iran's top diplomat is accusing Ukraine's President Zelensky directly of directing attacks against an Iranian commercial ship in the Caspian Sea, saying that would not go unanswered. Ukraine, we know, has accused Iran of supplying Russia with drones. So a lot of threads here, guys.
All right, Alice Barr, thank you so much.
Well, today marks 99 days until the midterm elections after the rise and fall of Graham Plattner. Former Maine state lawmaker Troy Jackson has secured the Democratic nomination in that Senate race. He will face longtime Republican Senator Susan Collins in a race that could determine control of the Senate.
Democrats now have less than 4 months to mount a successful challenge to Collins, who is a 5-term incumbent with a big fundraising advantage. Speaking at his party's convention, Jackson criticized Collins' voting record and laid out what's at stake.
One way or the other, this November, she will answer to the people of Maine. Because this election is not going to be decided by corporate PACs, big pharma, insurance companies, or the billionaires funding Susan Collins. It will be decided in union halls and at kitchen tables.
NBC News political reporter Megan Brand is here to talk through this and other headlines out of Washington this morning. Megan, good morning. So where is this race going to be won and lost? Does Jackson have a realistic path to victory there in Maine?
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, Maine is expected to be a really tight, competitive state, but a really important one. It's a state that Democrats are eyeing as a vital state to win if they're trying to win back the Senate and turn that blue. And it's also a really interesting state politically because it's a state that is represented in the Senate by Susan Collins, who is a Republican, but it's also a state that President Trump lost in 2024. So over the weekend, we got a bit more of a taste as to how these two candidates are going to be framing this race now that we are officially in the general election portion of this race. So Troy Jackson, in a speech over the weekend, criticized Susan Collins, arguing that she expresses concerns, but that she doesn't do enough to sufficiently take action and address those concerns. Another dynamic to watch is the extent to which he is able to tie her to President Trump. He said in that speech as well that she served President Trump. Now, meanwhile, Susan Collins had told our colleagues at NBC that she's served in the Senate during 5 administrations and that there's not a single president with whom she has agreed with everything on. She also pointed out a point that she disagrees with President Trump on, saying that she disagreed with him on his decision to try to put more tariffs on Canadian goods. She's trying to lean into her independence, saying that she opposes President Trump when she thinks that he's wrong and that she supports him when she thinks that he's right. And President Trump has also weighed into this race, endorsing Susan Collins for another term, guys.
And in some other news, it looks like President Trump is trying to challenge the way the Smithsonian Museum teaches American history. What's going on here? What has he ordered?
Yeah, so President Trump signed an executive order to have what was referred to as warning signs placed in front of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in an effort to try to correct what it referred to as inaccurate information put in the museum. Now, the executive order said that this would be temporary, and this also comes after a report was released by the White House on the 4th of July that criticized the way that the Smithsonian's present information to the public. That report had targeted the Museum of American History in particular, arguing that it was ideological and political. And that report had said that it wasn't able to be trusted to, quote, to tell America's story honestly and in a way that is inspiring, unifying, and worthy of our great republic. So this executive order also said that those temporary signs should inform visitors about the findings in that report. So the Smithsonian didn't provide a comment to NBC, but previously, after that report had come out, the Smithsonian secretary, his name is Lonnie Bunch, had said, defended the Smithsonian's work, saying that it was driven by scholarship, accuracy, and an uncompromising commitment to tell the fullness of America's story, guys.
And Megan, also, let's talk about Friday night, the Correspondents' Dinner. This event. It had to be rescheduled. People probably remember after a gunman had stormed the original event that happened back in April. Well, the president had promised some vicious attacks beforehand. It's this night that's supposed to be sort of part fun, part serious for the journalists who cover the administration to sort of be there with the administration on the evening. What did he have to say to the lawmakers and journalists that were in the room?
So many parts of that speech reflected the atmosphere of a political speech that he gives. So he criticized political opponents. He criticized journalists. But, you know, it's a very different crowd than one that he's used to speaking in front of. He's used to speaking in front of fans of his. And this was a room that was filled with many journalists who, you know, did not, who didn't express much emotion during a lot of this speech. It's also a speech where the president traditionally delivers a couple of jokes as well, and Trump did that too. And a few of the jokes got laughs, but many as well were met with silence. Again, this is a room of journalists who, it's a different atmosphere than the type that he would typically present a speech in front of. So he acknowledged that at some point as well, referring to a joke after a joke had fallen flat, saying that he thought that was the only part that was good in, quote, this whole freaking stupid speech that they wrote, were his words, guys.
All right, Megan Brand, thank you very much.
Severe summer weather continues to batter parts of the country. In eastern South Carolina, several inches of rain fell in a short period of time. That caused flooding yesterday for people living in low-lying areas near Charleston.
Meanwhile, out west, the opposite problem. In Las Vegas, the temperatures reached over 114 degrees, forcing airlines to reduce service because the planes couldn't fly with a full load of passengers in that heat. And it's not just the U.S. In Europe, the Spanish military was called in to help battle a wildfire burning in the central part of the country that is believed to be the largest in their history.
NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is tracking all this from Chicago. She joins us now with the latest. Maggie, good morning. First, let's start with the storms along the eastern part of the U.S. What can you tell us about those?
Sure. Yeah, basically, guys, you saw that flash flooding in South Carolina. That was really kind of emblematic of a lot of what the South and East Coast dealt with in the last 24 to 48 hours. It was just really quick, heavy, violent storms that roared in. We saw flash flooding in those low-lying parts you talked about near Charleston. Florida also got hit really hard. There were water spouts off the coast there. And again, violent thunderstorms. There's that South Carolina video. That's so striking. But it kind of keeping up that pattern that we've seen kind of across much of the Midwest and South, where these storms roar in really quickly and dump so much rain that a lot of the infrastructure really isn't able to withstand it. You see flooding like that. So just really a mess across that part of the country for sure.
What about the fires burning out west, Maggie? How serious are they?
Yeah, we're talking about close to 3 dozen wildfires in Oregon alone. That state in particular is experiencing one of its worst wildfire seasons in years. They have a historically low snowpack, which means there's almost no moisture there in the ground or in the atmosphere to really help calm these fires. It's basically a tinderbox. And then you can see, again, how massive the smoke plumes are there. I say again because we're also watching this in Europe, which we'll talk about in a second. But, you know, this is something that they've dealt with for years. They have a wildfire season every year, but this is August-like conditions being experienced in July. These fires are roaring out of control. You can see it's not the most populated area. A lot of it's really rural, but there are some homes that have been destroyed and a lot of people really on edge there, guys. And really, it's just showing no sign of slowing. So definitely concerning.
And you mentioned Europe. Typically, when we talk about wildfires, you maybe don't think about Europe, though in recent years that has been changing. Right. Fires right now burning across Spain and France. Talk about how they're impacting people there, how they're impacting communities there.
Yeah, in Spain, they've destroyed homes for sure. And in fact, I was just reading about Spain and France experiencing what they're calling smoke clouds. So this is becoming such a large force there in that part of Western Europe that it's almost like they're kind of meteorological elements being kicked up from the fires there. You can see that's what it looks like in Spain with those wildland firefighters on the front line there. In France, flames are racing toward the iconic Bordeaux wine region. Close to 250,000 people have been evacuated there. And then in Italy, people were forced off of these popular beaches that obviously are having their height of the tourist season now in the summer. And so it's really these kind of like, you know, the epitome, Joe, you're right. We don't think about this in that part of the world. And it's kind of really touching these iconic tourist hotspots. So just really striking a lot of people as to how severe, how historic, and also how common a part of our lives an annual record-setting, often wildfire seasons are becoming really around the globe.
Happening more and more often everywhere. All right, Maggie Vespa in Chicago, thank you so much. Let's get some more weather updates now and a closer look at your morning news now forecast.
Let's bring in meteorologist Andrea Romero with the latest. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. And yes, we are dealing with that severe weather threat also in parts of the country still. We're looking this morning at some heavy rain activity, some storms firing up here along Michigan and also here in parts of southern Illinois, stretching into parts of Kentucky and even also Tennessee. Now, this is frontal boundary that's going to be moving through the area, sparking these isolated storms that will be dotting the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes today, the Midwest. All severe hazards are possible. We're talking about damaging winds, large hail, and also that possibility of an isolated tornado. And this risk will be shifting eastward tomorrow as the system slides towards the East Coast, and the potential for that wind and that hail, those heavy rain showers, will be extending all the way from the northeast into the mid-Atlantic. We could have some flash flooding issues, especially in those metro areas. So that's something to look out for tomorrow. So the severe weather threat, 53 million people are at risk today here in the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and also parts of the Ohio Valley. And that threat, like I said, will be shifting over to the East Coast, stretching all the way from New York down into Myrtle Beach, and where 34 million people will be at risk for that severe weather. Now, talking about the heat, it's a dangerous, long-lasting heat wave that's impacting parts of the southern U.S. and also the central U.S. and will continue to do so. This hot and humid weather will persist. We can look at those triple digits that we'll be having today across parts of the desert Southwest, and that will continue into tomorrow as it begins to shift to the south, and the concentration of the heat will intensify, as well as the humidity for late week. And we're talking about heat indices that will be in the triple digits from Tampa to Myrtle Beach to Dallas, Houston, New Orleans. And of course, the heat is not only impacting the U.S., but across the pond, we're talking about that European heat wave, which of course is one of those main contributing factors for those wildfires that we just saw, those devastating images. Over 120,000 acres have burned in Spain already. Obviously in France also, we're talking about those fires, and we can see those hot temperatures, and really there's no relief in sight for them at this moment. So it's really concerning what's happening over there as well.
Reminder, many of those places, they don't have air conditioning there either.
They don't.
Very dangerous.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you. Well, in overseas news, the LGBTQ plus community in Germany is still in shock after a deadly attack at the Berlin Pride Parade over the weekend. On Saturday, police say a man drove a vehicle into a crowd and then began attacking people with a bladed weapon. He killed one person in the incident and injured dozens of others. On Sunday, police shot and killed the suspect after a short manhunt when he charged at officers with a knife. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has the details.
Berlin police killing this 21-year-old man suspected of plotting and carrying out a deadly terror attack that killed one woman and injured at least 29 others. Police say they found Abdul Balut in a garden. He rushed towards officers with a stabbing weapon before they say he was stopped by our special operations unit using a firearm and subsequently died. The manhunt lasted nearly 24 hours before coming to a dramatic end in the suburbs of Berlin. German officials say the suspect was a known radicalized member of local Islamist groups with a criminal history. Police say Balut drove this white van into dozens of people as they walked through Tiergarten Park, the city's largest public park. The driver's seat found empty after it crashed into a tree. Some victims were also stabbed, likely with a machete, according to the German Interior Minister. Many of the victims were attending a large Pride event.
Yeah, we have a beautiful Pride today, and now it's a terrible situation in Berlin. Yeah, I'm shocked.
The event, known as Christopher Street Day, is one of Europe's largest Pride celebrations, with hundreds of thousands of people in attendance. The festival cut short by the attack. Thousands returning to the area for a vigil.
We are feeling not free at the moment.
The mayor of Berlin vowing, "We will not allow anyone to take away our way of life or the way we live together." The Berlin prosecutor's office says the suspect was born and raised in Berlin and has a Lebanese background. They say he had previously expressed a desire to join ISIS. Back to you.
All right, Valerie, thank you. Well, let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Evie Poumpouras now for more on this. Evie, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Walk us through how authorities adapt to a threat like vehicle ramming at an event like this when it's publicized and known that there's going to be a gathering outside at something like this.
So we've actually seen quite a few of these. Germany's had an issue with some of these vehicle rammings. We even had one here in the United States, New Orleans. couple of years ago that we reported on. One of the things that you do is you put up barriers or barricades, but barricades that actually can stop the vehicles, even potted plants. If you look at some of the buildings here in New York City, you see these massive potted plants. Anything that can prevent the vehicle from ramming through. It's really something that people are taking into consideration, law enforcement authorities. Then you're also looking at the traditional police presence, even uniforms, how many uniforms to have on site. People don't think of that, but when I would do security plans, it wasn't just for the individual like the president, but we would think about the public. And I would think about how many uniforms I wanted. Uniforms create deterrence. If I see law enforcement in uniforms, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go the other way. So anything that's massive presence. I think in this scenario, they suspect that he did rent the vehicle, so they're going to trace that back to see what was going on with that. And I did hear that they actually had somebody else in custody. They're not sure exactly if that person's tied yet or not. There's no confirmation there, but there's suggestions that there was somebody else in the vehicle with the individual.
Let's talk about the suspect, because officials believe he did have radical Islamist beliefs. He had recently been sentenced for preparing a serious act of violence earlier this year. That raises a lot of questions about maybe why they weren't keeping a better eye on this person. Talk about how hard it is to do that. What should have maybe been done in a situation like this where you have someone who already has a history?
Yeah, so 2024, he posted propaganda, ISIS propaganda on Instagram. 2025, he actually traveled to Lebanon with intentions to go to Syria to connect with ISIS. 2026, actually just a few months before this incident, German law enforcement actually went to his residence to see if he was in violation of some kind of weapons act that they have. So somebody who's clearly on the radar with them. So they did convict him for certain crimes. But that's the thing, it's like you convict and then you release, and then how many people can you monitor? It is such a difficult thing. Social media, monitoring people with ideologies and ideas. We're getting to a point where it's very, very hard. And even when you look at someone, you have to make sure, do I have enough to keep monitoring? And then you have to allocate your resources somewhere else.
Evie Poumpouras, as always, we appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, millions of eggs have been recalled because of possible salmonella contamination. We'll tell you what you should be looking out for.
Up first, though, we'll head to Grenada, where a search is underway for an American tourist who vanished while on vacation. The latest on the investigation.
We're back now with an urgent search underway in Grenada for a North Carolina woman who vanished during a beach vacation. Elizabeth Waddell, who goes by the name Liz, was last seen going for a swim but never returned. Her family has now flown to the island, desperate for answers. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has more.
A desperate search is underway in Grenada for 44-year-old Elizabeth Waddell, an American tourist missing since Wednesday, Grenada police say, last seen at Grandon's Beach. This release describing the physical therapist as having a medium build and short blonde hair. Authorities are asking fishermen, boat operators, and residents along the southern coastline to be on high alert and report anything they see. Friend Amanda Romano Harmon was not on the trip, but is speaking on behalf of the family.
I really still want there to be a happy ending to this.
She says Waddell was vacationing with another close friend who believes she went for a swim.
She was in a bikini and a towel. They found her towel in the pier. That was it.
Romano Harmon says surveillance video shows Waddell in the water, but then she floats out of view.
And that was the last she was seen.
That was the last that we have eyes on her. Yes.
Do you all have any idea what might have happened?
We don't. The Coast Guard has been out for several days. They've had divers out for several days. They can't find her.
The State Department tells NBC News they're aware of a missing American in Grenada. Waddell's husband and daughter are on the ground aiding in the search. Her husband writing on Facebook, "I expect nothing less than Liz's safe return." Back home in North Carolina, friends and loved ones hoping for that too.
Liz, if you can hear us, we love you. And we're searching. Please come home to us.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
Well, as Americans face rising prices for energy across the board, one possible producer of reliable energy is having a hard time getting off the ground. Some indigenous communities say federal roadblocks are standing in the way of developing renewable power on tribal lands. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin has a look.
Power, land, and water. We have an abundance of all three.
windmills dot the South Dakota plains.
Those prime development for, solar wind. But to get access to that capital is extremely difficult for tribes.
On these hallowed lands belonging to the Sioux tribe, not a single turbine in sight.
Developing an Indian country is one of the hardest things to do on this earth.
Why? What makes it so hard?
Federal government.
The government tried to make it easier. The Biden administration created a program that would back private capital loans to ease the risk for investors. But that $75 million fund, as well as other clean energy grants, were gutted in the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, signed into law by President Trump last summer.
On this reservation in this vast open field behind me, just 2 wind farms could have been used to generate power for 500,000 households. Those projects are now on hold.
Some of those households would have been in states as far away as California, where reliance on wind power is growing.
If we as a tribe don't do something and get into the game, then we're going to be left behind like we always have been.
Natural disasters, artificial intelligence, and cryptocurrency are driving energy demands nationwide.
There is huge untapped potential on tribal lands to generate electricity of all types.
Adria Brooks is a transmission planning expert who used to work with the Department of Energy.
Our utility rates are going to go up each month. It also is going to mean, though, that our electricity is not as reliable.
That's where the Oceti-Sakowin Power Authority would have come in, to develop renewable energy resources on tribal land to alleviate the aging grid. Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Chairman Ryman LeBeau is on the board.
What would it mean to be able to have wind turbines on this land?
It would mean energy sovereignty for our people. We would use the land to put up the wind energy towers and power our homes, our communities, our hospitals, our clinics.
Helping tribes unlock revenue streams they critically need. But some tribal members say they should be consulted about any projects on their land.
We want to do these new things, but the federal government at every turn, passes all these things that are a direct hindrance to Native American people within the United States.
The Department of the Interior, the agency that oversees government relations with Native Americans, did not respond to our requests for comment. Julie Sirkin, NBC News.
Well, coming up, a foodborne outbreak that could have a big impact on your next breakfast.
Up next, we'll tell you about a warning from the FDA recalling nearly 20 million eggs because of possible salmonella contamination. Tips on what to do if you have contaminated eggs in your fridge. You're watching Morning News now. We're back with a foodborne outbreak that could impact your breakfast. Late Friday, the FDA announced nearly 20 million eggs are being recalled for possible salmonella contamination.
The eggs were produced and distributed from farms in Texas owned by Midwest Poultry Services. Well, now federal health officials are urging people to check their fridge for any bad eggs and throw them out.
NBC News medical reporter Dr. Akshay Syal is here with more on what you need to know. So the FDA says this outbreak could go as far back as November. You have nearly 100 people sick and dozens hospitalized. What should we know about this outbreak, and where exactly are we seeing it?
Right, so another foodborne outbreak on top of the Cyclospora one we were just dealing with. And guys, this is both white shell and brown shell eggs. The distributor seems to be Midwest Poultry Services, according to the FDA recall. And guys, here, Best By dates July 20th to August 17th. The FDA has a massive page on their website for anyone who might be wondering, are my eggs affected? There's an entire list of different brands, including Kroger, Simple Truth, Brookshire, Country Morning, all sorts of brands on the website with actual lot numbers that you can actually, cross-reference your eggs in the fridge with the FDA website. If they are on there, guys, throw them out. Don't try to even cook it out. Just throw them out.
See, that's a good note, though, too, that it's not just like, it's not going to say Midwest Poultry Services. You have to make sure and check it's not one of these other brands. That's
Correct.
important. What are the symptoms of salmonella?
So very, very similar, actually, to the quote, parasite diarrhea that people were worried about just a few weeks ago and still are. But guys, diarrhea, fever, vomiting, stomach cramps. But here's the difference. You see on your screen there, 6 hours to 6 days after infection. Remember, with the parasite, we were talking up to 2 weeks. Salmonella tends to present a little bit more quickly than that parasite.
You mentioned throwing them out. Aside from that, what else should people do if they have contaminated eggs?
Yeah, so Joe, one of the big things you worry about with eggs is actually the outer shell. You can actually have the bacteria on the outer shell. So, for example, if you're somebody who stores your eggs on your countertop, if they're sort of around a lot of different things, you want to clean and sanitize the area. If you are throwing them out, put them into a little plastic bag, then throw them out just so they avoid any sort of cross-contamination. But guys, if you think you can cook the salmonella out of this. Don't try and do that. Just dispose of the eggs altogether.
So cooking them doesn't just like kill the bacteria, or it just...
It technically does.
Okay.
Cooking does kill the bacteria about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. But the problem, Savannah, is that if it's on the counters, if it's around the kitchen, it's going to start to, sort of cross-contaminate other things. So, for example, you're not going to be cooking your counter. You're not going to be cooking other things that may come into contact with, and you could get infected that way.
And as you mentioned, this is all happening while federal officials are still trying to get the Cyclospora outbreak under control. It's been linked to iceberg lettuce, bag salads. Up to nearly 12,000 people have been sickened so far, and we still don't really have a single confirmed source. Talk about the biggest challenge officials face when they're trying to investigate something like this.
We talked to experts over the weekend, Joe, and really what they're telling us is manpower, right? As investigators race to find the source of these outbreaks, there's a growing debate over whether recent cuts to federal health agencies have left the system with fewer tools to respond, making the outbreaks harder to contain.
U.S. health officials scrambling to find what's causing the country's largest ever Cyclospora outbreak as cases from the parasite keep going up. Health Secretary RFK Jr. reassuring the public, saying,
"We do have the outbreak under control."
But just a few days later, officials identified another cluster impacting over 70 people with no known source yet, and more states battling outbreaks.
Immediately had to sprint to the bathroom. It was horrible.
For the people saying, "Oh, I want to get the parasite, I want to lose weight," no, you don't.
It's still unclear what the source is for all the cases, meaning manpower and resources are still needed to track down the culprit. Last year, the CDC cut back on its foodborne diseases active surveillance network, something we covered when NBC News reported it exclusively.
The CDC is scaling back this critical program called FoodNet.
The program had required monitoring of 8 pathogens, but the agency reduced it to just 2, leaving Cyclospora for states to track on their own.
They've disrupted the flow and weakened the flow of scientific funding for this kind of agricultural science investigation and investment that needs to be done.
The CDC telling NBC News earlier this month and reiterating to our Aaron McLaughlin there's no difference in how cyclosporiasis cases are reported to or handled at the agency in recent years, adding it's challenging to track because it could take a week for symptoms to appear. Former FDA Commissioner Robert Califf under Presidents Biden and Obama telling CNBC those cuts and others are problematic, while stopping short of saying they've made this outbreak worse.
They don't track Cyclospora anymore. That was a decision. I think DOGE in general will go down as an unmitigated disaster, particularly in the area of public health. It is very hard to say this specific case, the cuts had anything to do with the ultimate outcome.
Another former FDA commissioner under President Trump, Scott Gottlieb, also responding to a question about the cuts.
CDC appears to act slowly here. Michigan really did a lot of the initial epidemiological work that traced this to a common food source, and then FDA picked up from there. There have been cuts. There have been people in some of these groups who've been let go from DOGE. There was also a group on food safety that was let go at USDA. Whether or not that translated into any of this, I think it's really premature to draw that conclusion.
We've reached out to the FDA and haven't heard back. Beyond the response at the federal level, state and local health departments often take the lead when outbreaks like this begin, and the CDC relies on states to notify them of cases. There's currently a gap in the case count between what the states are reporting and what the CDC has confirmed, with Michigan alone saying there are more than 8,000 reported cases. The CDC has confirmed 4,000 nationally, while investigating thousands more. Experts say that difference is common and will be resolved over time, as public health officials work to verify cases. The problem is, time is of the essence to find the source and stop the spread.
The faster we can spot and identify an outbreak, the faster we can connect it to a food, and that means we can call that food off of the shelves through recalls. And the faster that food is recalled, the fewer people are going to be exposed going forward to that.
So, Doctor, what could this mean for the future of food safety in the U.S.? Is this a wake-up call? Because, some states are better than others at tracking these things, but there's obviously clearly a lot of area where no one's keeping a close eye on it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And if you listen to the former health officials in that package, you sort of listen how they were sort of just coming close of saying that these cuts are directly responsible for the outbreak. And, in talking to food safety experts, what they're telling us is these outbreaks were probably still going to happen. The problem is Cyclospora, the parasitic diarrhea, really exploded really really quickly, sort of exponentially took off in a way that we weren't really expecting. And so that's what experts are warning about. Is this a sign of things to come? Are these outbreaks just going to get completely out of hand because we don't have the manpower to control them?
All right, Dr. Sayal, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Coming up, the days of driving stick shift may soon be heading for the exit ramp.
Next, a slow, gradual shift in driving is putting the spotlight on the decline of manual driving. We'll break down the trends from automakers as car companies look to the future.
We're back with news that a distillery for the bespoke liquor brand of a Hollywood A-lister is closing, and that's raising larger questions about Americans and alcohol. The Portland distillery for Aviation American Gin, backed by actor Ryan Reynolds, has closed. It's perhaps the latest sign that all alcohol brands must adapt to a shift in consumer habits, with more Americans drinking less. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal reports.
A celebrity-backed bar closing its doors in Portland. Is it just another sign that drinking is on the decline?
I don't know. Is the gin done?
Actor Ryan Reynolds backed Aviation American Gin Distillery, pouring its last drink. When it opened just 4 years ago, Reynolds said it would be Disneyland for adults, complete with a tasting room and visitor center.
Other distillery tours keep their visitors behind glass, but at Aviation, we know that people truly learn by doing.
This is our bottling line.
I want to show you our packaging department.
Flash forward to now, its parent company, Diageo, that acquired Aviation in 2020 and kept Reynolds as the face of the brand, responding to our request for comment. After careful consideration, we have made the difficult decision to close, moving production to other facilities, adding, this decision reflects evolving business needs as we continue to support growth ambitions for our Aviation American Gin brand. Diageo sales down almost 10% in North America in its latest quarterly earnings report compared to the same time last year. A rep for Ryan Reynolds said he relinquished operational control of the gin brand when he sold it to Diageo. It's not the only liquor label making cuts. Brown-Forman, the maker of Jack Daniels, cutting 12% of its staff last year, and beer maker Heineken slashing thousands of jobs, all as more and more Americans say they're leaving booze behind. Last year, only 54% of U.S. adults said they drink alcohol, falling more than 10 points since 2022, and the lowest number since Gallup started asking the question in 1939.
Anybody under the age of 45 can't afford to drink.
The shift, driven by Gen Z and millennials, fewer of whom now drink than older age groups.
Nobody can afford anything, yet you want me to go to a bar and you want me to spend $36 on 2 cocktails?
The reason we don't go to clubs no more is because everything's too expensive.
The average price of a cocktail now above $13, according to a market research firm, Technomic. In places like New York City, it's even more. But for some, the shift away from drinking goes deeper than their pockets.
Alcohol is literally poison.
You know, it may be a shift towards wellness. You've got GLP-1s, which are playing a big role in how much people are consuming both food and alcohol. And you've got a little bit of a shift away from drinking culture.
People seem to be moving away from the culture, but still craving the community, with buying drinks at bars on the rise, even as alcohol consumption falls. Experts say people are looking for options, whether it be swapping a Cosmo for cannabis, which has doubled in popularity over the past decade as states have legalized marijuana, or switching a mojito for a no-hito.
The kind of most successful model that you see is where there's a really good non-alcoholic cocktail list and a really good alcoholic cocktail list. And that way everybody gets to hang out.
Non-alcoholic beer, wine, and spirits sales now surging 22% year over year as people look for drink alternatives to quench their thirst without the buzz. Meaning in the battle of the bars, the ones that can shake things up may come out on top. Camila Bernal, NBC News.
Well, thanks to another shift in consumer trends, we could be nearing the end of driving stick here in the U.S. There's now a growing number of automakers that are hitting the brakes on producing cars with manual transmission.
Get this, preliminary government data shows less than 1% of new vehicles were made with a stick shift for the U.S. market last year. That is quite the drop from 1980 when that number was 34%. Now, chances are if you got your license in the 1980s, you probably know or knew how to drive stick. After that, maybe not.
Joining us now for more on this is Todd Frankel. He's an enterprise reporter on the Washington Post financial desk. Todd, good morning. Just this year, Toyota and Volkswagen, they've both signaled an end to the production of their stick shift models. First, just walk us through the biggest factors that has changed the way that people drive.
Yeah, I think now today the automatic transmission is really better than manual. It used to be the other way around, that people would want the manual transmission because the automatics were not that good. But today, engines have great computers. You're able to shift 7, 8 different 9 gears, which would be really difficult with a manual transmission. And also EVs. EVs pretty much are single gear transmissions, and so there's no need for the stick shift.
I will never forget when I had a stick shift because my car broke down and the only car we could find for me to drive was a stick shift, and I had to kind of learn while doing it. And I was on a hill like this at a red light, and I was like, I'm either going to get this or I'm going to hit the car behind me and take everyone out. And at that moment, it stuck. I got it. And once you get it, then you're pretty good. It takes maybe a few times. But not everyone can appreciate that. But there is still this deep-rooted tradition of driving stick for the gearheads out there. I mean, talk about how the auto community is just responding to this decline.
It's a lost art. As you said, there's a lot of folks who don't know how to do it. There's all these great stories of, people, valets who don't know how to park, when they see a stick shift come up to them, or thieves, they want to steal your car. They jump in and they see a stick shift and, they don't know what to do. So they leave it alone. But for the folks who do drive still stick shifts, they're getting very hard to find. There's only a few automakers who bother to offer them. The Ford CEO made headlines earlier this year when he promised that Mustang will continue to make a stick shift, which is kind of remarkable to think that, it is even contemplated that folks were worried about that happening. Wow. And so it really is, it's going away, but, for the folks who want it, they really want it to stick around. It's more fun. It's definitely a different driving experience.
We were just showing the headline from your great article on this here, the death of the stick shift is almost here. In your article, you mentioned the hopes are not high for a stick shift revival here. Walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, just every way everything's headed. One of the analysts I talked to had a great point about how today, we basically treat our cars like our couches, right? We want to scroll on the phone. We want to have autonomous driving. We really we're less engaged with the driving experience than we were previously. And having a stick shift is, you got to pay a lot more attention. One hand is occupied, constantly shifting. You have 3 gear, pedals on the floor. It's a different experience, but it's not something that you see. I don't see there's, long for it, especially when you see automakers like VW giving up on it. Mini, the brand, those little cars that were pretty much made with the stick shift in mind, they no longer even offer that as an option. They're all automatics. So at one point, we're going to all have great stories about being able to drive stick, but we won't have anything to demonstrate it on.
Yeah. How can you text and drive while you're driving a stick shift? So, tell us about your stick shift driving experience. Have you ever done it, and what was it like for you?
Yeah, no, I learned in college. I had a friend who had a truck, and I had to, drive it actually one night, and it was, learn or not go anywhere.
Yep.
But it's kind of funny because it's a skill, though, like I haven't done it in 20 years. I'm not sure I still know how, because I haven't encountered a stick shift, rent a car or the cars that I drive. I haven't seen it in a long, long time.
Wow.
I do like the idea, though, that it is a great, who needs the club when you can just have a stick shift, and that's the best auto theft deterrent out there, humanly possible. I dare you to steal this. I'm going to leave it unlocked, windows down. No one's taking this. So.
Todd Frankel, thank you so much. That was fun.
Great. Thank you.
Coming up, he's explored the world for years and inspired others to do the same.
When we come back, we're going to go one-on-one with travel host Rick Steves. He's going to tell us why he wants people to just get outside of their comfort zone and go on an adventure.
We end this hour with a conversation with the man who inspired millions to pack their bags and see the world, travel host Rick Steves.
After a lifetime of exploring other countries, he says there's still no place like home. NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Yamas sat down with Steves to discuss his journey and why travel continues to shape the way he sees the world.
The ideals of America, that's what I love about our country. And that we live in a society that is smart, brave, and free enough to set a high bar for these ideals.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves, enjoying more of the best of Europe.
For nearly half a century, Rick Steves has made it his mission to teach Americans how to travel.
This Yankee commoner is going to give it a try.
Very good.
His European expertise now an empire here in America, with 70 guidebooks, 13 seasons of a television show, and a legion of fans.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Rick. Oh my gosh, we love you so much.
But behind the comfortable shoes and practical travel tips are an appreciation for simple, everyday experiences, values born in the Pacific Northwest, where Steves grew up.
That's where I caught my first salmon with my dad out there in his little boat.
His wanderlust started as a teenager after a trip with his parents.
I spent my summers in Europe on a very tight budget. I thought, hey, I could package the lessons I've learned from my travels, and then other people could learn from my mistakes rather than their own and have a better trip.
He self-published his first guide in 1980, Europe Through the Back Door, now in its 40th edition.
A back door is a place where you can connect with the culture when it is at ease, not cliches on stage surrounded by a bunch of tourists.
Now, 34,000 Americans join his company's tours every year, embracing Steve's push to step outside their comfort zones.
Culture shock is a constructive thing. It's the growing pains of a broadening perspective. That's the mission right now, is to help Americans travel in a way where they come home with the very best souvenir. And that's a joy, a realization that the world is filled with love. It's filled with wonderful people.
At 71, Steve still does his own research, spending 2 months every year in Europe updating his guides. But he always comes back to Edmonds, Washington, just outside of Seattle.
I could live anywhere, but I choose to live here. I think it's because of the ideals of America.
It's here that he employs more than 100 locals at Rick Steves Europe headquarters.
Because everybody wants to go on that ridge.
Everyone just says that and goes out and back.
He's also spent millions helping build 2 senior centers and saving a hygiene facility for the homeless.
Now 800 people who happen to be homeless in the south end of my county know that they've got a shower and a place to wash their clothes.
Steve says it's about encouraging the values he believes set America apart.
Until next time, keep on traveling.
And now his life's work focuses on giving Americans the tools to grow through travel.
Travel makes us both better citizens of the planet and, frankly, better Americans. I really believe you learn a lot about your own home by leaving it and looking at it from a distance.
Tom Llamas, NBC News.
Every European trip we take involves watching at least 3 Rick Steves videos and buying the book.
Oh my gosh,
He's the
I didn't
best.
know I could love him more. It's so neat to hear him talk about that.
True icon there. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for kicking off your work week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Breaking overnight, shootout in Seattle. The hunt is on for at least 1 gunman after a possible firefight with another armed suspect at a bustling food festival late Sunday. 1 suspect surrendering to law enforcement, but not before 3 people were killed and at least 4 others injured. The harrowing stories from eyewitnesses as police race to find answers. Also this morning, heat is the word. Triple-digit temps scorching parts of the plains and Southwest. It's got millions from Minneapolis to Vegas sweating through those work week blues. Get this, at Sin City's airport, highs hit 114 over the weekend. And it looks like Mother Nature won't be turning down the thermostat anytime soon. Your full forecast as you start your Monday in just a moment. Plus, fresh food worries from health experts as that stomach-churning Cyclospora outbreak linked to lettuce spreads to 9 states, its largest footprint on record. The FDA also warning about a separate salmonella outbreak with dozens sickened, why federal officials are now eyeing cases of eggs sold at popular grocery chains around the country as a possible culprit. And dust off those cowboy boots, because later in the hour, we're going to get to steppin' with Gen Z's latest dance floor craze. Truly a blast from the past. Having flashbacks to when I was in high school, we had to do line dancing, and you could only get an A if you put your thumbs in the belt loops.
Wait, it was a class?
It was gym class. You had to do it. I grew up, in a farm town,
Yeah.
and so that's what you did. But
Wow.
only if you didn't put your thumbs in the belt loops.
Wow.
Got to be.
I would have been better at that than trying to run the mile.
There you go.
Yeah.
Should have gone to high school in Elk River,
Exactly.
Minnesota. All right. Let's begin this hour. Some breaking news out of Seattle in the wake of a mass shooting there at a crowded food festival.
It happened just one block from the city's iconic Space Needle. Authorities say 3 people were killed and at least 4 others were injured in the attack, including a young boy. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the very latest. Liz, good morning.
Well, hey there. Good morning. Just hours ago, this area where we are right now, a block away from the Space Needle, was filled with people enjoying what is a really popular annual food festival here. In fact, you can see past this roadblock, the vendors, the tents that they had to abandon. Officials say all of that changed when those 2 suspects began firing at each other, hitting people in the crowd.
This morning, police say they have a suspect in custody and are looking for at least one more alleged shooter.
Rapid fire. Rapid fire.
After a mass shooting at a crowded food festival in downtown Seattle.
We have multiple people down.
Chaos erupting as shots ring out, sending terrified people running and screaming. Food vendors who were live streaming the event ducking for cover.
Shooting.
People even taking cover at the gift shop of Seattle's famed Space Needle. Witnesses say they didn't know what was happening in all the confusion.
We just heard what at first sounded like firecrackers. When the crowd started moving quickly in herds, you knew something was happening.
People started running right away, like running. I mean running. It was stampede. There's bodies everywhere.
Officers took one of the suspected shooters into custody without incident.
We believe that there were 2 people shooting at each other. We have recovered 2 weapons so far.
Authorities say 2 people died at the scene and a third later at the hospital, and at least 4 others were injured in the mass shooting.
Anyone have a small child tourniquet size?
The youngest, a 2-year-old boy, hospitalized in stable condition.
We discovered as we got to the scene that there were a total of 7 victims that suffered gunshot wounds at the scene. Officers immediately began to perform CPR and first aid on several victims.
This was the 3rd and final day of the annual Bite of Seattle Food Festival that draws some 350,000 visitors each year and hundreds of vendors.
My heart right now is with the victims and their families and with everyone in our community who is reeling from what happened here today.
And police say they don't believe there were any surveillance cameras in the area where this shooting happened. They are now pleading with witnesses to come forward, saying that they know there were people who were there that know something. And as for a motive, all of that is still under an investigation. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thank you.
Now to the other big story we're following this morning, the unrelenting severe summer weather. More than 100 million people across the country are roasting under a heat wave that's bringing triple-digit temperatures to the south and west. Well, Florida and other parts of the southeast are bracing for powerful storms that could bring as much as 6 inches of rain in a short period of time. And across the pond in Europe, massive fires are burning in Spain and France, forcing evacuations near the famous Burgundy wine region. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is following all of this from Chicago. She joins us with more. Maggie, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Here in the Midwest, it's the humidity. That's the major issue. We can already feel it this morning. It is suffocating out here. This after a wild weekend, as you point out, of broiling heat, dangerous storms, and wildfires raging across the globe.
This morning, a summer of wild weather heating up, with some states in the south seeing storms and flooding this weekend, even a water spout off the coast of Florida. From coast to coast, much of the country feeling scorched. 115 million Americans under heat alerts this morning, and dozens of cities setting record highs over the weekend.
Let's go see a movie. Don't be out in it.
Those sky-high temps even throwing a wrench into summer travel. At Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas, where weekend highs hit 114 degrees, at least one airline asking passengers to give up their seats. The steaming hot air proving too thin for engines to take off with a full passenger load. In Scottsdale, first responders flooded with heat-related emergency calls. Here he comes. While zoos in multiple states adjusting hours or temporarily closing to keep animals and visitors safe. The blistering temps fueling raging wildfires in Oregon. Some authorities say sparked by lightning during recent storms. This as dangerous blazes race across Europe too, with wildfires torching homes in Spain and forcing people off popular beaches in Italy. Flames also racing toward France's iconic Bordeaux wine region.
So far, nearly 250,000 forced to evacuate. Back in the U.S., millions struggling to stay cool again today, as this summer scorcher shows no signs of slowing. And again, we're talking a lot about the heat, but here in the Midwest, the humidity has been a real factor. It reached near record levels yesterday in St. Louis. The heat index there yesterday topping out around 120 degrees. Joe.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. Let's get a closer look at what you can expect now with your Morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Andrea Romero is with us again this hour. Hi, Andrea. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. From the extreme heat to the severe storms, we have so much happening across the country. We're going to begin talking about the threat of storms today. We have this threat of some isolated storms that will be moving into the Ohio Valley from the Great Lakes into the Midwest. All severe weather hazards are on tap today. We're talking about damaging winds, a large hail, the possibility of flash flooding, and of course, those isolated tornadoes as well. This storm system will be moving to the east into tomorrow, and it will be impacting all the northeast into the mid-Atlantic, where we will also see those severe weather conditions of wind, hail, and possibly a tornado. We have a lot of tropical moisture associated with this system. It's just going to be pulling it up. So we do have also the risk of flash flooding. So we have the severe threat for over 53 million people today over here in the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and the Ohio Valley. And that, of course, will move to the east tomorrow, where we have over 34 million people at risk of also seeing that severe weather from New York all the way down into Myrtle Beach, and especially here in parts of the Carolina, North Carolina, as well as parts of the Appalachians. Now we can see here that rainfall forecast I told you about, because we do have that tropical moisture. So especially into tomorrow here in the New York metro area, the tri-state area, we're going to be dealing with a lot of rain, and that could lead to that dangerous flash flooding. Now, as far as the heat, of course, this has been a long-lasting, continuous heat. We don't even get much relief at night. That's what makes it so dangerous as well. We have over 115 million people that are being impacted by these heat alerts today, all the way from the Central Plains into the southern part of the U.S. These are potential records we're expecting this week, because this heat will continue throughout this week. We're looking all the way from Grand Forks into Roswell, Houston, all the way over here into Gainesville, Florida, the possibility of seeing those record temperatures with that hot and humid weather that's going to be making it feel with the heat indices in the triple digits. So it's going to be this heat that will continue, and it'll be especially moving into the southern part of the U.S., the southeast. We're talking about temperatures late week that are going to be in the triple digits with those heat indices, of course, with those high humidity levels. And of course, we're not only dealing with the heat here in the U.S., we're also dealing with the European heat wave. This extreme heat that they're feeling over there is also fueling those wildfires, along with the gusty winds that we're seeing in Spain and in France. And looking at that forecast, we're really not seeing much relief in sight for Western Europe, where temperatures by the end of the week will still possibly be in the 90s and maybe even triple digits in some areas.
It's a long heat wave there. All right, Andrea, thank you.
Thank you. Well, now let's head overseas with new developments on that terror attack at a pride parade in Berlin over the weekend. The horrific scene happened during what was supposed to be one of Europe's largest pride celebrations. And this morning, German law enforcement are facing serious questions over the failure to stop the attacker. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now with the latest. Raf, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Yeah, this attack bringing violence and terror to the very heart of the German capital, cutting short what was supposed to be this festival celebrating Germany's LGBTQ+ community. And today, German police are facing major questions about whether they could have done more to prevent the attack. This morning, new details emerging about the suspect authorities believe carried out a ramming attack at Berlin's Pride Parade before being shot dead by police after a citywide manhunt. German prosecutors naming him as 21-year-old Abdul Balut, saying he was born in Berlin, had a criminal history, and was a supporter of the terror group ISIS. Police now facing major questions about whether they could have prevented Saturday's deadly attack, when Balut allegedly rammed this rented van into a crowd gathering to celebrate Germany's LGBTQ+ community, before jumping out and stabbing people with a machete. One woman was killed and 29 others injured.
We have a beautiful pride today, and now it's a terrible situation here in Berlin. I'm shocked.
The attacker escaped, triggering an all-out manhunt across the German capital. After nearly 24 hours, police say their SWAT teams tracked him to a suburban garden complex and shot him dead after he charged at officers with a bladed weapon. Authorities have now revealed he traveled to the Middle East last year, planning to join ISIS in Syria, but was arrested and sent home. Saturday's attack cutting short what should have been one of Europe's biggest pride celebrations. Mourners instead gathering at a vigil on the parade route and vowing to stay strong in the face of terror.
They'll never erase us. We'll never be gone.
And we are learning now that just 2 months ago, the suspect was sentenced to more than a year in prison for preparing an act of serious political violence. But that sentence was suspended, allowing him to walk free. And so a lot of very serious question marks now about how this case was handled. Savannah.
All right. Ralph Sanchez, thank you very much.
An uneasy pause in fighting between the U.S. and Iran continues to hold this morning after both sides halted attacks 3 nights ago. The U.S. has dismissed reporting that depleting weapons stockpiles are to blame, saying the pause is to give space for talks. NBC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from Jerusalem. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. There certainly have been no breakthroughs, no real diplomatic progress, but negotiations do seem to be advancing, although tentatively. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said that it has exchanged indirect messages with the Trump administration, and a senior Trump official saying that attacks on Iran have paused to give some space for negotiations.
Even as talks resume to prevent a return to all-out war, the U.S. military is keeping pressure on Iran, maintaining its full naval blockade of Iranian ports. U.S. Central Command releasing video of American troops boarding and inspecting a ship in the Persian Gulf, and disabling a vessel after the Pentagon says it ignored repeated warnings. But for the third straight night, the U.S. military did not attack Iran directly, and Iran didn't fire on American bases. President Trump's UN ambassador Mike Waltz said on Meet the Press the pause is designed to encourage diplomacy.
What the president is doing right now, as we've seen all along, is giving some talks, some space. The president has all options on the table, and he is exercising both diplomatic, economic, and military to achieve a very clear strategic aim.
But this war is politically divisive, and polls show increasingly unpopular and expensive for Americans.
Well, I think these guys are flailing, and this thing is completely stuck because this president got into this without a strategic goal, despite what Mike Waltz said about that they had a strategic aim in mind.
Iran, for the first time in weeks, is reporting diplomatic progress to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which could lower gas prices, but provided no specifics.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu travels to Washington today, where he is expected to meet with President Trump. Joe?
All right, Richard, thank you so much.
Well, the Iran war is just one of the many issues on the minds of voters heading into the midterms this fall. And with less than 100 days to go until the election, President Trump is heading out on the campaign trail to battleground Michigan today. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us with the latest. Gabe, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Here in Washington, it is crunch time for the Senate with 2 weeks to go until its August recess. And the president is ramping up pressure on his own party as the crucial battle for control of Congress takes shape. With less than 100 days until the crucial midterm elections, President Trump is preparing to head to battleground Michigan today to tout the economy, despite rising gas prices and uncertainty over the Iran war.
We have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Meanwhile, in a Senate race that could determine control of Congress, Democrats in Maine have picked their choice to replace Graham Plattner, who dropped out earlier this month after a slew of controversies, including a sexual assault allegation, which he denies. Former State Senate President Troy Jackson will now take on Republican incumbent Susan Collins.
So one way or the other, this November, she will answer to the people of Maine.
I never take any election for granted. No one will outwork me.
Republicans trying to hold on to a slim majority on Capitol Hill, though Democrats see a potential opening in Maine.
Every time it's mattered, and we could have used her vote to really put a check on this president, she stood with Donald Trump. I think we have an opportunity here.
Another closely watched race will be in South Carolina after the shocking death of Senator Lindsey Graham, whose funeral is set for tomorrow. His grieving sister Darlene, who was tapped to fill out the rest of his term, is now running for his seat with the president's endorsement.
I had an inner peace about it, and it's just something I knew I had to do. I had to carry on Lindsey's legacy.
President Trump also ramping up pressure on Senate Republicans to pass sweeping election reforms.
His patience is running out.
The Save America Act would require voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote, but critics say it would make it harder for Americans to cast ballots.
Everybody call John Thune at the Senate. He's the leader of the Republican Party, and tell him to get this stuff approved.
The president is also urging Leader Thune to pass a budget resolution that includes defense spending and money for farmers. But right now, Thune says he does not have the votes, and the White House is growing more frustrated. Savannah.
All right, Gabe, thank you very much.
Now to a health alert after nearly 20 million eggs were recalled over a possible salmonella contamination. This comes as that cyclospora outbreak linked to lettuce expands to 9 states. Top health experts are warning the parasite spread is not yet under control. NBC's Ann Thompson has been following both these stories, joins us with the latest. Ann, good morning.
Hey there. The FDA is investigating a total of 6 clusters of that stomach illness that's making people so miserable. One involves some of the nation's heartland, linked to the lettuce we've heard so much about. But also on the plate of federal officials, a salmonella outbreak linked to eggs that's causing new concerns for consumers.
This morning, the biggest cyclospora outbreak on record includes a cluster now at 9 states. Federal health officials link the parasite to shredded iceberg lettuce produced by Taylor Farms and sold at Taco Bell. While the FDA has tracked at least some of the tainted lettuce to a farm in central Mexico, on Sunday, the agency's former commissioner said the outbreak may not be fully contained.
I don't think this is fully under control yet because we don't know for sure that that's the only growing region where this is coming from, but it does seem to be the case at this point.
I mean, I was sick.
Angie Lewis says she fell ill with cyclosporiasis, a severe stomach illness, but never ate at Taco Bell.
Do you think government health officials have more investigating to do?
Well, I definitely think that they need to get to the bottom and make sure that, people need to be more aware that this is not just Taco Bell.
Taylor Farms has already voluntarily recalled the lettuce, which was also sold at Walmart, and said it suspended all iceberg lettuce sourcing and production from central Mexico. For its part, Taco Bell said it stopped selling the suspected ingredient on July 17th. Still, the FDA says it expects cases to keep climbing. So far, almost 2,000 people contracted cyclosporiasis. 98 of them had to be hospitalized. It comes as a separate salmonella outbreak has sickened nearly 100 people. The FDA linking some of those cases to eggs they say are likely sourced from Midwest Poultry Services and sold at multiple locations, including Kroger grocery stores. The egg farming company voluntarily recalling 19 million white shell and brown cage-free eggs, which were sold in 6 states, as officials urge consumers to check their refrigerators.
Midwest Poultry Services said in a statement overnight that producing safe quality food for those who eat our eggs is our highest priority. And this voluntary investigation and recall demonstrates that commitment. The advice to everyone watching really remains the same. If you're eating lettuce or eggs from one of those impacted brands, check out those product description labels. They're the string of letters and numbers printed on the packaging, and consult with the FDA's recall list to see if you have an affected product. Back to you.
All right, Ann, thank you.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including why a former Border Patrol agent is standing alongside Texas's Democratic candidate for Senate over the hot-button issue of immigration ahead of November's critical midterms.
First, though, after the break, an American woman vanishing while on vacation in Grenada. The desperate race for answers as family and friends plead for her safe return. That is next.
We're back now with the mysterious disappearance of a North Carolina woman who vanished while vacationing in Grenada. The 44-year-old mother's family and friends have flown to the island desperately searching for answers and pleading for her safe return. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has the latest on this. Jesse, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Liz Waddell disappeared on the island of Grenada nearly a week ago. According to a family spokesperson, she was last seen in the water near Grand Anse Beach. But when a friend went looking for her, all they found was her towel. Now police on the island are pleading with the public for help finding this missing American mother.
This morning, Caribbean investigators are trying to determine what happened to Liz Waddell, a 44-year-old American who vanished on an island vacation. According to the Royal Grenada Police Force, the married North Carolina mother was last seen at Grand Anse Beach on Wednesday. Police specifically calling on fishermen, boaters, and people who live along the coast to be on the lookout.
They've had divers out for several days. They can't find her.
Amanda Romano Harmon is a family friend. She says Waddell and another friend were sharing an Airbnb. And when the friend did not see Waddell at their rental's pool, she went looking by the beach, but only found Waddell's towel. Romano Harmon says when Waddell did not come back after a few hours, the friend filed a missing persons report.
My wife is a loving, free-spirited person.
Waddell's husband, Kalen, speaking with Grenada's media over the weekend as he flew to the island to join the search.
The police have been wonderful. The investigation is ongoing. They have been incredibly communicative and have done everything it seems like they could be doing to help find her.
Waddell's husband asking for help on social media, writing, "I expect nothing less than Liz's safe return."
I'm Liz Waddell, and I help active people feel great and get back to the activities that they enjoy most.
Waddell, who works as a physical therapist, often shares her active lifestyle online, expressing her passion for movement and for helping others. Now, her family is asking for help and for prayers for her safe return.
We want to leave no stone unturned. We just want to bring her home. I really still want there to be a happy ending to this.
The family friend telling us one of the things that Liz Waddell's family is now doing is they are going through her search history to see what kinds of places she was planning to visit or interested in visiting in Grenada, and then the family's planning to go to those locations to see what they can find that way. The family friend also telling us that at this point, the last known sighting they have of Liz Waddell is from Wednesday around midday between the noon and 1 hours, right around then, that there's surveillance video from a bar showing the pier and showing her in the water swimming. She then floats out of frame, and that is the last visual that the family has, according to this family friend. Police in Grenada asking people to come forward with information if they have any idea where Liz Waddell might be. Back to you.
Jesse Kirsch, thank you very much.
Coming up, a political firebrand out of Texas now securing a bit of support from one unlikely ally.
When we come back, the former Border Patrol agent who's putting a life of conservative values on hold to turn out for a Democratic Senate candidate, all because of immigration. We'll explain next.
Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the Democratic National Convention's decision to keep South Carolina as the first state to vote in the party's 2028 presidential primary. NBC News political reporter Megan Brand is here with that and more. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, let's start with the Democratic National Committee, which took a step toward making South Carolina the first primary state for the party in 2028. On Friday, the DNC's Rules Committee recommended keeping South Carolina as the first state in the nominating process. Now, that recommendation will be presented to the full DNC during next month's meeting. Now, remember, 2024 was the first cycle that set South Carolina as the first primary state for Democrats. It used to be Iowa in the first nominating slot. After South Carolina, Nevada and New Hampshire will be the second and third early nominating states in the 2028 cycle. Let's go next to a federal appeals court which handed a setback to one of President Trump's election initiatives. The court upheld a lower court ruling that had halted parts of President Trump's executive order, which aimed to create a federal list of eligible voters and only allow mail-in ballots to be sent to people on that list. About 24 Democratic-led states had initially sued over the executive order. Now this ruling comes just about 100 days before midterm election day. Finally, let's turn to federal research grants. According to court filings, the Trump administration admitted that it cut 284 grants because they were connected to states that President Trump lost in 2024 and were represented by Democrats in the Senate. An Energy Department official wrote that the department accepted that a reason that a group of those 284 grants were cut was, quote, based solely on the political identity of the grant recipient state. The Energy Department pushed back in a statement arguing that the court filing was misrepresented and that none of the decisions to cut grants were based on politics. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. As she mentioned, we are now less than 100 days away from the midterms, and more Republican voters seem to be dissatisfied with how President Trump is handling both the economy and immigration. Especially true in Texas, where immigration is one of the top issues. Now, Democratic Senate candidate James Tallarico is hoping that topic can help him win over voters in a state that is traditionally deep red. Tallarico visited the border earlier this month to unveil his border security plan. He criticized both the policies of the Trump and Biden administrations. Comes as a recent Fox News poll revealed voters are almost evenly divided on which party would do a better job handling immigration. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler traveled with Tallarico on his recent border trip.
The American people are not asking for a lot.
We met James Tallarico in Terrell County, Texas, an hour from the nearest grocery store, a world away from Washington. But here in the desolate Texas borderlands, the epicenter of a debate reshaping national politics.
Both parties have failed us on our border.
Tallarico came here to take Democrats back on offense on an issue that propelled President Trump to a generational win along the border.
Thank you, Texas. Thank you.
In 2024, Trump carried 12 of Texas's 14 border counties, some turning red for the first time ever.
I've called out President Biden and his administration for the chaos that they caused along our southern border. And so it was understandable that folks here in these communities were looking for an alternative.
The breakout Democratic star campaigning here on a border security agenda that's heavy on bolstering Border Patrol, hardening the border, and creating pathways to legalization for undocumented people. From this town of just 600, the audience was the nearly 19 million voters of Texas.
And I think what most Americans want is a common sense approach to border security. That's not what we have now. I think it's what most Texans want, and they're frustrated that they can't seem to get that from either party.
The message has earned him some unlikely allies.
People here are conservative, and not just Terrell County. It's even in Brewster County and Presidio County. I mean, you're going to see a mixture, but people are conservative. And
few people know this land and its interests better than Terrell County's Republican Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland.
What do you think when you look at this vast land?
Well, for me, I think of home.
Sheriff Cleveland is a lifelong conservative and a former Border Patrol agent in charge of this area. He stood alongside Tallarico and stopped short of a full endorsement. But he says in this part of the state, one issue is igniting a unanimous backlash against Trump's DHS.
We don't need, a fence. What we need, of course, is agents, technology.
As DHS pushes through a multi-billion-dollar plan to build a border wall through the nearly impassable Big Bend region, locals like Cleveland feel Republicans have abandoned them on the issue.
To be honest with you, they don't want to come out and speak about it because they don't want to piss off Trump.
God bless you, and thank you for being here.
But the same week, Republican candidate Ken Paxton did come down to the border, rallying voters in McAllen.
My view on immigration is we need a secure border.
Slamming Tallarico's record on border security while also addressing the issue of affordability.
So I want you to know I'm about reducing costs
making your gas prices lower, reducing the cost of housing, and lowering your taxes.
Both candidates making it clear they understand for border voters, their vote is about much more than just the border.
Issues that matter here are the same issues that matter to everybody else.
That's right. Affordability. So many folks along the border are struggling, like all Texans, to afford the basics: groceries, gas, utilities, prescription drugs, the things that we need to survive.
3 hours down the Rio Grande, Eagle Pass was once the poster of the border crisis under President Biden. Now the river is quiet, and we found the economy, the war with Iran, and ICE is top of mind.
Everybody's turning into Democrat right now because of the ICE, the jobs and everything, the economy, and all this thing is turning around.
You think the border area will vote Democratic again this year?
Yes, sir. I'm sure about that.
A message that may be echoing up and down the Rio Grande.
Do you see a Democrat like James Tallarico having a chance to win this year?
I think so, definitely. And I hate to say I think so. Yes, he does.
Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
Coming up, if you've got reservations over scoring a reservation at some of your city's trendiest restaurants, well, never fear. Morning News Now returns. We've got a veritable tasting menu of simple tips and tricks you can digest to snag a seat at that table. That's next, so don't lose your appetite yet. We're back now with some dining out tips for all you foodies out there. Scoring a reservation at a trendy restaurant can feel like a competition these days, so we're going to go through a few simple tools and strategies that can help improve your chances of getting a table. NBC News business and data and now food correspondent Brian Chung is here to help us navigate the reservation game. First of all, just sort of set the stage here. Why can it be so hard to get a reservation at some places? I think I know the answer, but walk us through this here.
Yeah, well, I mean, social media. Yeah. Social media is driving so much of this. People are finding restaurants on TikTok. They're finding restaurants on Instagram, and that's why it's no surprise 73% of people, specifically young people, are finding out about new restaurants through social media. But here's the thing, 22% are also using AI to find restaurants. So you have layered on top of that all these different ways that people are discovering them, while restaurants are not answering their phone calls as much. 40% of restaurant calls go unanswered. So that's why it's no longer going to do it just to try to pick up the phone and call the restaurant to see, hey, do you have a table? And by the way, I should also point out, if you thought Monday and Tuesdays were a lock to get a reservation, not anymore. 11% increase for bookings on Mondays and Tuesdays, according to Toast. And that's in part because of some of those trends that we just outlined.
Monday's the new Thursday, apparently. All right, so what are the best tips to try and secure that coveted reservation?
Yeah, well, first off, you're going to have to set a lot of reminders. These days, a lot of restaurants are doing these things where they'll release batches of these reservation times, 14-day or 30-day windows, and it might be a month in advance. You have to find out exactly when these drops are going to be. Set a reminder for yourself, and then it's just going to be the old classic game of refreshing. It's going to be like buying a pair of sneakers or maybe scoring concert tickets. But look, even if you don't get that reservation by setting up those notifications and trying to get it as soon as it drops, walk-ins. There's always going to be an allocation for these restaurants for walk-ins. And you might even notice online, I've noticed that some restaurants don't have reservations between 5:30 and 9 p.m. because they want those prime dinner hours to be primarily for walk-ins. So just look, if you don't see a reservation online, doesn't mean there isn't a table. You have to give yourself a shot.
Are there any tools to help give you a leg up at all?
Yeah, well, the obvious ones are going to be OpenTable and Resy. These are websites that everyone has noticed online. By the way, Google Assistant is also a way that if they don't have those platforms plugged in with a certain restaurant, you can actually have the Google Assistant make a phone call for you and see if the restaurant will pick up to put your name down. Credit cards is another great way to get a reservation. If you have Chase, Amex, or Capital One, double check to see if that card has reservation allocations, because sometimes those restaurants give specifically those credit cards a certain allotment of seats. And I know people won't be thinking about DoorDash because you usually DoorDash something to your door. They have their own types of restaurant allocations as well, so you can check that out. And ResX is the last one. There are people that have last-minute dropouts. They just can't go to the reservation. They put that online, and then people that are willing to take that last-minute reservation can go online and grab it.
Real quickly, if you can't get that reservation, is all hope lost, or is there something else you can do?
Not at all. Again, the last recourse is always try to call the restaurant, see if they have any seats available. Also, try to arrive before opening. If you can get there, let's say the restaurant opens up at 5 p.m., you get there maybe a half hour, 15 minutes beforehand. You could score some of those first walk-in tables and try off hours. I know it's anathema to New Yorkers. If you could do a 4 p.m. or a 5 p.m., that might be your best shot.
And if you can sit at the bar, too, sometimes that's like the best option, too. Same menu. All right, Brian, good tips. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. For decades, country superstar Dolly Parton has turned her Southern hospitality and signature style into a sparkly business empire. The singer-slash-businesswoman has opened resorts, theme parks, restaurants, musical exhibits, and dinner theaters, all in her home state of Tennessee. Well, now she's reshaping the American road trip with Dolly's Tennessean Travel Stop in Cornersville. It's a small town about 60 miles south of Nashville. It's a gas station, it's a restaurant, it's a live music venue, and a shopping experience, all wrapped up in one. For more on this new roadside attraction, joined now by Washington Post travel reporter Andrea Sachs. Andrea, good to have you back with us. I know you flew to Tennessee to check it out. We're going to get to the travel stop in a moment, but first, talk about just how it all came to be. I know you're a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to Dolly-themed attractions, as am I. Just what was your first reaction when you heard that she was going to open a themed rest stop?
Okay, I dressed up for you.
Thank you.
I'm wearing my $30 Dolly t-shirt. I just slept in it too. But that's my secret. I heard about it. There were like murmurings of it a couple months ago. And I'm like, this is going to be amazing because first of all, she's a Tennessee girl at heart. She knows travel like no other, having spent so many years on the road. And so it just combines so perfectly for this travel rest stop. And I feel like as we've seen the Beaver kind of becoming a destination unto itself at Buc-ee's, the Beaver, it just seemed like a perfect addition to her dynasty.
We'll talk about the Beaver more in a second, but this was just, I think, a dream assignment. Tell us more about your experience at Dolly's Tennessean Travel Stop. Is it a normal road trip pit stop, or is it maybe kind of like a museum of Dolly?
That's a great question. It's a blending of everything, and it all depends on what you need. I felt like a lot of people that I met during my 19 hours, it actually might have been 20. I kind of lost count after a while. They were there for Dolly. Like, I did not hear of anyone say, this is a really great gas pump. Everyone was there for at least an hour or so. They were eating, they were shopping, they were playing lawn games, they were listening to music, they were just getting a break from the road. Their dogs are running around in the Doggy Parton dog park. Like, they were just really enjoying what can be a grueling time on the road, especially during the summer.
So naturally, people are going to compare this with Buc-ee's, another iconic highway travel stop out there. I love going to Buc-ee's, the jalapeno cream cheese dip, the beaver nuggets, and the incredibly clean bathrooms, like the cleanest restrooms you've ever seen in your life. So can you compare them? How does Dolly's compare with Buc-ee's?
People are going to make the comparisons. She brought it up during her opening welcoming remarks about not leaving it to the Beavers. The largest Buc-ee's is near Dollywood, and that's the first Buc-ee's I ever went to, and I've been to several since. Gets a little repetitive at times. I think she will stand out because she is Dolly, and she has that sparkle. And this place is like no other. They did talk about wanting to expand. It definitely has some pros, things that Buc-ee's doesn't have, like the merchandise, the live music, the Dolly artifacts throughout the rest stop, but there are some negatives, like she does not have the bathrooms that Buc-ee's has. Okay. So save some time for the bathroom line for sure. But they have a lot more seating. Every time I go to Buc-ee's, I'm eating in my car.
Yes.
So this, you sit, you stay, you had multiple meals, multiple snacks, and you can spend the whole day or more there.
Oh, the whole day. There you go. As you did. I think you were there for like 19 hours, right?
For me.
I know. Travel stops have obviously long been part of the all-American road trip, but increasingly they are becoming these destinations. We certainly saw this from tourists who were visiting during the World Cup. What's driving that shift?
If you look at the larger, broader landscape, airports are doing this, train stations. You have people on the road that need a break. They need their necessities, which would be food, bathroom, gas, whatever it might be. And so you definitely have an audience that is coming to this, and they're just upping it for people. They're just making more of a destination, more of an experience, so they can enjoy it and spend some money. But I do feel like they're putting a lot of effort to make these enjoyable experiences.
And then we talk about it. So there you go. Andrea Sachs, good to have you with us as always. Exactly. Love the shirt. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, coming up, the stars were definitely shining bright at this year's Comic-Con over in San Diego. That includes some hero-sized reveals that definitely had fans talking, but can sheer celebrity appeal help recapture some of that fading franchise appeal? We're going to discuss next. Welcome back. From capes and casting surprises to must-see trailers, Hollywood's biggest stars assembled in San Diego for a Comic-Con packed with reveals. Marvel brought the wow, announcing David Johnson as the next Black Panther, Ryan Gosling as Ghost Rider, and unveiling a new look at Avengers Doomsday. Then, in a plot twist worthy of Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds crashed the panel in costume. The excitement didn't stop there. Brian Balthazar, entertainment journalist, pop culture expert, and friend of the show, joins us now to break down the moments that had everyone buzzing. Brian, good morning. So after Chadwick Boseman's death, that left just an enormous void in the Black Panther franchise. How could casting David Johnson as his character's grown son help move the story forward, but then still honor Boseman's incredible legacy?
Well, I think that's the key right there, is they're not trying to recast or replace. The fans were very divided about whether you could even recast this at all, as were the filmmakers. And so casting someone as his son continues that story, honors Chadwick Boseman's character and his performance, and lets this story continue. And that's, I think, what was one of the reasons that this is such a great decision. And of course, David Johnson, who is, I don't want to say he's a newcomer, but he's not that well known. This is really going to put him on the map. This is going to be an incredible role for him, a defining role for him. And again, like you said, keeping the storytelling alive without having to start over again and reinvent that character, I think, is key here.
Yeah, and you see Ryan Coogler there as well, who has just been such an incredible steward for the franchise. So, yeah. Brian, what has been the reaction to Ryan Gosling now joining and becoming the next Ghost Rider?
I think it went really well. You know, the lights went black and suddenly the lights come back and there's Ryan Gosling. The audience went wild. You know, he had casually mentioned that he wanted this role back in 2022 in an interview. And I don't want to say it was a fan kind of lobby, but it kind of was. I mean, fans were really interested in having him in this role, and he's great for it. You know, it's one of Marvel's most requested characters, and he's perfect for it. He plays a stunt biker who inadvertently not really, his father is ill and he sells his soul to save him, but he is deceived, as one is, by people, by demons. So it's an interesting story. It's a great one, and I think it's perfect for him. He's got the gravitas as an actor, but also the box office appeal for this role.
Yeah, it seems like a great choice there. Marvel also brought out a massive Avengers Doomsday cast. There's a lot of questions because MCU was so hot for a while, and then it just felt like it was throwing too many things out there. It wasn't really hitting at the box office. The reviews weren't great. Does this weekend suggest the studio is going to recapture some of that momentum?
Well, it certainly shows they're trying to. This was as much a movie announcement as, I should say, a business strategy announcement, going to what works. Robert Downey Jr. being one of those things that works. As you were saying, at its peak in 2019, Marvel films brought in $5.7 billion. Now that is around $1.3 to $1.5 billion a year. But Robert Downey Jr. has been a big part of that. His collective parts in these movies have grossed about $12 billion plus. So that's why he's rumored to be making $100 million for these two films in the Avengers Doomsday series. He revealed his accent. He came out and did a costume reveal. He took off his mask, and the audience, of course, went crazy and revealed his accent for the role. This is a smart move. They're going back to what worked and bringing back the people that they know their fans love.
All right, beyond Marvel, fans got new looks at Lanterns, Blade Runner 2099, The Rings of Power, and Carrie. Guess Carrie's back. What reveal generated the most buzz?
This is a tough question, actually, because I would say Lanterns, where Marvel owned probably the movie space. Lanterns, a DC property, is owning the TV space, which is coming in early 2027. And this is kind of like True Detective meets Green Lantern. It's widely viewed as one of the kind of a prestige television kind of television show that's kind of a little bit more of a gritty kind of prestige veneer to it than, say, a spectacular CGI filled, while it will still have that. It doesn't feel as flashy. It feels really gritty. And I think people are really attracted to that. Aaron Pierre there and Brian Chandler are really going to bring in, I think, a lot of fan interest. So that's coming. Kyle Chandler, I should say. Yeah. Also, Laura Linney coming out next year.
Sounds good. A lot to talk about there. Brian Balthazar, good to have you with us to break it all down after a busy Comic-Con. Appreciate it. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but don't go anywhere. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.